Hey, everybody. This is Lynn Bright, also known as JLB in the house. And we want to welcome you one more time for listening to HopeNet Studio 2501, Conversations about Mental Health and Wellness. This is our podcast. And thank for all of you that have listened before. Thanks for joining us again. And then for some of you that are for first timers, welcome. We're so glad that we have Dr. Rebecca Culver-Turner in the house from Friends University. But before I let her come in on this, I want to always thank our sponsors. So we want to thank Hoydale for being our presenting sponsor. We love them and they love HopeNet. And also our generous community partners. We want to just thank you too for making this possible. So we're not, without any further ado, we're going to bring her on. We're going to just, y'all are checking her out right now, some of you that can see her. So Dr. Rebecca Culver-Turner, and she is from my alma mater, Friends University here in Wichita, Kansas. She is the Associate Professor of the Marriage and Family Therapy Program and also the Wichita Site Program Director here. And so I want to tell her this beforehand that she's really a blessing in the city. So just know that, because I don't think people tell us that very often, but what you get to do is sometimes hard. So,
thank you.
Yep. So just welcome. Hi. Say hi to our people.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. We were just kind of talking ahead of time and saying, like, what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? And we really want to couch a lot of this in the place of, we're just on the heels for some people that are listening today. We just left the month of July, which was Minority Mental Health Month. And we wanted to get you on the tail end of that, even though we're recording a little later. But I really want to focus too today on school, back to school, as people are getting ready to hit August and September and saying, oh, I got to get ready to do something new again. So we're gonna kind of combine that. We're just gonna pull on your expertise, but go ahead and tell us everything you want us to know. Oh, I don't know if I should tell a therapist that, but tell us the things that you want us to know that you think would just be really beneficial for our audience to get just a taste of who you are.
Yes. I'm married and my husband's name is Tyler.
Ooh, hi, Tyler. Hi, Tyler.
Hello,
you
Tyler.
can wave. Okay.
Yeah. And I have two little kids and they're both getting ready to go back into school. They're little ones. I have one very grumpy old cat at home.
How old is the cat?
Like, I think 13 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's pray for the cat.
I know. She knows what she wants. And we've lived in Wichita for about 5 years. So I came down here, moved down here, whole family moved down here for my position at Friends University. Before that, I was the clinical director for the Kansas City Master of Science and Family Therapy program.
Okay.
Lived up there for 3 years. Before that, a counseling faculty member over at Fort Hays State.
Okay.
And as a family, we enjoy hanging out a lot, cooking and baking.
What's your specialty?
My specialty, I'll say the request that I get the most from my family is probably chocolate cake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Some people's mouths are watering right now as you say that.
And then what I wish I had more time for is at least once or twice a year, my husband and I, and we usually drag our kids along, get to go to Colorado and fly fish.
Oh.
And we love it. So that's like a little snapshot of me.
That's my husband's, like, he loves to fish and he does have a knack for fly fishing. So that's it. I don't think people usually name that. That are maybe from Kansas.
Yeah. I know it doesn't happen as often as I would like. So
some people are listening and say, yes, we do. We do like fly fishing. So
okay, well, call me. We need a fly fishing club.
This is a great time for us to brag on Friends University and just the opportunity that's here in our city. And for us, it's the Marriage and Family Therapy Program. But talk a little bit about the program and friends, and then we'll dive in some other stuff.
Yeah. I think I'll talk about it in two ways. One, just briefly about the program.
Yeah.
And then two, how they're very much integrated into Friends University.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. So it's a 2-year program, 60 credit hours. It's very rigorous. It takes a lot of time, a lot of emotional and mental energy as well. And we try to warn students of that before they come
You're trying to give me PTSD.
No, I know. I'm sorry. You're like, I know what that felt like. But one of the things that we often say is a transformative journey that personally and professionally, by the end of 2 years, you're hopefully a different person, more self-aware, more emotionally regulated, more able to address your own personal and relational conflict, and also a clinician, an effective one at that. So I love our students. They're great. They're fantastic.
And the age groups can be from 20s to 60s or 70s.
Yeah, we always have a handful of students that fit that, what they call a traditional route, where they come straight out of undergrad. But then we have a lot of students that, they're in their second or third career.
Okay.
Or they've been stay-at-home parents, and their kids are starting to all go back to school, and so they feel ready to kind of explore their own career again. Or we even have people that say, I'm going to retire soon, and I'd like to maybe do some therapy, be a therapist in my retirement.
Yeah.
So it's a wide variety, all walks of life that show up to our program.
In this day and age right now, we probably need a lot of people in retirement saying they want to do therapy.
Yeah.
Because the need is so great. And, I don't know where everybody is from that's listening to us, but here in Wichita, we're feeling that, or here in Kansas, that the need is great, that people are reaching out for help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about the campus and how that's all that's integrated with the Marriage and Family Therapy Program?
Well, I have to say it's been fun to be in the program and part of the university for this specific reason. The administration has always supported mental health, help seeking, and therapy with our program, and just destigmatizing it. And that's been wonderful, and it's been effective. So we have lots and lots of students from Friends University that seek help in our own clinic on campus, the Center on Family Living. And we have a wonderful clinical team that is figuring out how to manage all of that and navigate that, so that we can also still provide services to the community.
Right.
But they're doing some really innovative things. They piloted something where they started providing it's kind of like a group therapy opportunity in the dorms.
Okay, that's
and
cool.
It's been incredibly successful. So we've helped people navigate all kinds of things, exploring like, what does anxiety and depression look like? What are some coping skills? And if there's a conflict with my roommate, how do I talk to them about it in a productive, effective manner? So it's been more successful than we even thought it was going to be. But those are kind of the cool things that Friends has always supported and allowed us to do, is integrating more and more mental health services onto campus. Yeah. So if you're a traditional undergrad student or an undergrad student at Friends, you have several resources for mental health, and it's pretty easily accessible. So that's fun. That's fun to like be on a campus that supports mental health.
And I'm even hoping right now, if there's someone from another university and maybe you don't have that happening, or you want to try something like that they would reach out to you, and we'll tell them how to get a hold of you, or somebody at Friends, because if you're trying to help people, let's try something, and it's good that you said it was more successful than you even thought it was going to be. And I do want to do a shout out to Dr. Carrie, the president of Friends, because she is an advocate. She is a great leader. We've had her on the podcast too. So if you want to search for her, Dr. Amy Carey. And so that would be just really great. But just, I love her and just her passion for leading and for people. I love that. I want you to tell on yourself. And
in what way?
Let us know. I want you to share with the listeners, like when did you feel like called, or when did you know that I'm possibly even gifted to sit with people and to help? And maybe you were like me. I didn't even know what a therapist was, okay? But I just felt this drawing and this pulling. So my whole story of getting to Friends University and becoming a marriage and family therapist, I think all of us have a journey to where we're actually then sitting with people to be the helper, a healer. So what's your story?
I actually was kind of all over the place in my undergrad.
And it's only you have ever been all over the place.
I think I popped around from graphic design, business. I think there was something else in there, maybe photography. And then,
no, do you mean while you're in college?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
now, okay, I'm gonna join you on this. Like, people that don't know me well, I was going to be a home ec teacher because I wanted to teach sewing, and I only wanted to teach sewing. I didn't want anything about no cooking. Like, you love to cook, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about that. And that fashion design, all of that kind of stuff. So I changed major. I did the 5-year track in my undergrad. And then I don't know if your parents said what my parents said to me. They just said 2 words. It's over. And I said, what's over? And they said, the money. We're not giving you any more money to go to school. So you got to land somewhere on something.
Yeah.
And then finally you land. So I think we've had a similar story.
Yeah, it took me a while.
Yeah. So did you get a wake up call? Did your parents call you one day, or did you just say, "Oh, I better probably decide"?
Well, they kind of went with like how fickle I was, surprisingly, and and then kind of what connected me to it is, at some point I wanted to go into ministry.
Okay.
So transferred to Ozark Christian College, started working towards my degree in ministry. And then I think it was my very last year there, I was starting to realize, maybe this isn't a great fit for me, but I still want to be in this profession of helping people, but I don't think it's ministry. And so one of my professors at Ozark Christian College said, well, have you ever heard of marriage and family therapy? And I said,
someone just said that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I said, no, I've never heard of it. And he encouraged me to look at a program. And, I watch other students that apply they have this plan and they apply the 4 or 5, programs. And they have this, I just admire how well thought out they are, because I just fell into it. I put in my application, flew down to Texas. And at the interview, I thought, oh, I like this. It was that's a little late in the game. But I loved it. And then I moved down there for my program, got accepted. And it was during the program that I just fell in love with the field. I had a blast. It was really hard. Kind of went through my own transformative journey.
What does that mean? Like, when you say that, because people can be listening and saying, it was really hard. Like, what made it hard?
Oh, all kinds of things. So academically, it can be really rigorous, writing papers, reading lots of books and articles.
That's a capital LOTS.
Yes.
Lots of books. Okay.
And then you're on your own personal journey. So you're sitting in class, and of course you're learning about family of origin and family conflict and dynamics. And so you can't help but think of yourself, and you can't help but apply that to yourself, and think, you know, your eyes start to like slowly get open to your own things too. So, like one example I always share of something that I learned about myself is, I've gotten better as I get older, but I've usually been kind of a slow to react. You know, if something's frustrating or there's conflict, I can be slow to react and kind of remain grounded. Okay. But then also have the tendency, what I didn't realize is to internalize it, to like let it sit in me and internalize it. And then it affects me in all these other ways and kind of ruminate on it. And I thought that was the healthy thing to do. Okay. Because I wasn't, you know, like yelling or overreacting. But I learned that that's not very healthy either, that internalizing things and like ruminating and sitting on it, you know, that's not helpful either. In fact, it really hurts your body to do that.
But is that like I don't know if some people are thinking of the word stuffing. Like, is that what I do? I just stuff it or contain it. I just try to contain it and manage it from the inside, not on the outside.
Yes. And that's what I did a lot. And so during the program, you know, I'm reading these chapters over. Yeah. Internalizing, that's not very healthy. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's me. Yeah. So that's one of the things. But also learn that, you know, how that bleeds into relationships and conflict of, I then wasn't managing conflict and relationships in a very healthy way. So again, you're learning in a clinical textbook about how to help your clients, but then you're thinking, oh, I need to work on that myself. Yeah. Yeah. So heal thyself, kind of. Yeah. Yeah, that term wounded healer very much applies to me. Yes. Yeah.
So then what came after that? Then what's the in-between from being in Hayes and then going to Kansas City, that type of thing? Like what's the in-between? Did I practice? Did you say, when I get out of school here, I'm going to do blank, and that's what I did? Or?
Well, I knew in my master's program, I wanted someday to be a part of a program like that, that was teaching and training master's level students. Okay. I mean, that's how much it impacted me. I was watching it and being a part of it and thought, oh, this is so transformative and powerful. I want to be a part of that. And so, again, kind of fell into a PhD program. I applied to one program. I'm like, oh, I like that program. And miraculously got in, went to the K-State Marriage and Family Therapy program.
That's my other, that's the place where my mom said it was over. Yeah, I'm a K-State grad.
Go Cats.
Yes, okay, we're bonded for life now.
I know.
So went to K-State.
Went to K-State and knew like after that at some point that I wanted to try to find a faculty position. So I think I did some community clinic work and private practice work for about a year or so, and then found my first faculty position at Fort Hays State. Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
We kind of had a similar, like I went to work for the state and my area office was Hayes.
Oh.
But even though I was in Oberlin, Kansas, but my area office was Hayes, so I had to go there often for meetings. So,
oh my gosh,
you know,
there are all these ways.
There was kind of a mall there. There was like kind of a mall. Yeah, and I was excited. I was excited about the little mall. Okay, in Hayes, Kansas. So
I've been there. Yeah.
So we can identify with all of that. Yeah. So, when you're talking about what we would call maybe stuffing or the things that were harder, this is not healthy. I was just wondering, because I'm looking at you and I'm saying, was any of that cultural? Because I'm making some assumptions about some things, and I don't know if you've ever thought about that. But culturally, what's your background?
So I feel like, in literature, they call it a double minority, where you don't feel like you really fit in to one context.
Do any of it? No.
Yeah, I know.
I shouldn't have
I know.
said that.
No,
Yeah.
I know. So I mentioned that, and my students come in, and they maybe haven't read that yet, and so they say it feels like I'm living in two different worlds. So I, of course, am racially Asian.
Okay.
Look Asian. I'm 100% Asian, Korean. But grew up I was adopted, and my parents are white.
Okay.
Grew up in Missouri.
Okay.
So always had kind of this experience of, and where I grew up in Missouri was very predominantly white. So, and at the time, I think it's a little different now. At the time, having this mixed race family in rural Missouri was kind of a strange experience and phenomenon. So I would go to a lot of places, and they were like trying to make sense of who I was, of like, can you speak English? Like, where
Being
are you?
asked that.
Yeah, where are you actually from? And on the inside, I'm like, I feel white. I feel white because my parents are white, and I've kind of grown up in this white culture, but I can't really live fully in white culture because I don't look white. And then would talk to Asian Americans, and especially Asians where their country of origin is different.
Right.
And they could tell that I wasn't one of them. So they had a lot of there's always like a lot of curiosity about that. And I think sometimes this disappointment, because they'll meet me and they're excited that maybe I can speak their language or understand their culture. And in fact, I'm not. So, as I've gotten older, I think some of those things have dropped away. It's not as significant. But for quite a while, my childhood and adolescent was really shaped by that experience of that. And we have students, too, that they come in. And, at times our program population can be racially and ethnically diverse, and at times it can't.
Right.
So when we have a student of color that comes in, or that we have a student that has a different country of origin, or, their parents immigrated here.
Okay.
They say, when I come to the program and I sit in the classroom, I have to act a different way. This is a different culture for me. So I'm living in a very different world right now, and I have to adapt. But then when I go home and I'm with my family and my own community, I have to act different, or I can be more at home that way.
Okay.
But then my family treats me differently now that I've gone on to a master's program with a bunch of white people. And I understand that. I get it. And I tell them, I say, I get it. I understand. I don't maybe fully understand your experience,
Right.
but I get what it's like to live in two different worlds. And so I try to validate them and kind of meet them where they are. But it's very difficult. And then it's difficult for their peers to understand that, especially if their peers, don't quite have that experience. But what I feel like our students do a really good job of is listening to each other. So they will sit and they'll kind of listen and make space for each other.
Okay.
And they'll say, oh my gosh, that surprises me. I didn't know that.
No.
Yeah. Like, tell me more about that. So that's kind of a typical experience in our program now.
Like, I'm sitting here listening to you and looking at you, and the word that keeps coming to me is rich. Like, what you just shared is so rich. And the thing is, I think until we decide to put ourselves into someone else's skin to say, like, ooh, tell me more about that so I know what you're talking about. I just assumed that we're just all kind of the same. And because I think when you're in school, especially in the program, you just kind of think we're all here hanging on for dear life and just trying to make sure. Well, that is
true.
And so some of that, some other things that are personal about us kind of fade in the background. But as we are growing, as we are being transformed through the experience, things do pop up, especially when you start thinking about family of origin and just how you were maybe trained or taught to behave and those kind of things. And I'm glad that you shared the story about I'll meet someone of Asian descent and they'll think, oh man, they're excited. And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
It's Korea, not Vietnam. It's not, okay.
Uh-huh.
And one thing I do want to bring up is that my experience as a therapist is sitting with someone who was from Vietnam. And I had to learn a lot from my client, from the person sitting in front of me. And the thing is, I asked you that one question about stuffing because my experience with my clients that were, from Vietnam, maybe first generation or whatever, they don't know anything about being in a room with the stranger telling our story. But non-fail, because it happened more than one time. I wish I would have known about this earlier. And this was like the best thing that ever happened to me, to be able to talk about what's going on in my family or what I don't like at work, where I am sometimes the only person, or people don't understand the food that I'm eating and that type of thing. But as a professional, I said, I'm going to sit back and learn. You teach me about you and your experience, how you're experiencing all of the world, and then how can we help you with whatever problem that you're having. So I think you put it in such a way that it just was like melting butter for me, of taking in something new. But I really like butter. Okay, y'all stop.
I was going to say butter.
Melting butter. Never heard that one before.
I cook a lot with butter. Maybe I shouldn't.
and we were talking about, we're on the heels of Minority Mental Health Month in July, and just thinking about how some minorities, and there's more than just Black or Hispanic. It's like there's more people out there that are not in the majority. So in assessing mental health, like I said, didn't even know that this existed, and I'm going to be telling you secret things, and you don't get to tell. That sounded appealing though. Yeah. So just, I want you to speak into that, like, where are we at right now in this day of just everyone matters, and just we're just going to take a slice and say, how do you see the accessibility for minorities getting mental health services in even this area?
Yeah, it's improving, and there's still a lot of obstacles in the way. So one of the small ways that I see it improving is that there are times that students come through our program that are part of a marginalized community, where they never felt like they had access, or it was normalized to seek mental health services. So their goal is to go through our program, get trained and licensed, and go back to their community or stay in it, and provide and kind of keep destigmatizing and normalizing mental health. And I love those stories when I meet students and they're telling me about that. And it is true. They do return or stay in their community and provide those services. And I think that matters, that someone, when they are looking for a therapist, they can find someone that looks like them, that maybe understands their language and their culture. So that's not always a have to in therapy.
But it could be nice.
And it could be nice. Because if you're already looking at this profession that you don't know anything about, and it looks kind of strange from the outside, I guess it is strange on the inside too. That you have all this, like, you're wary of it. So if anything can help kind of cross that line, it could be that you see a therapist that understands your family and your community and your culture. But there's still lots of barriers, I think, for them to get access to it. Sometimes have the resources that would provide coverage and support around it. But then also having effective treatment and clinical care that would take into consideration what it's like for them.
You're really causing me to think. I always say I'm part of the old guard. I love that there's new professionals coming up in the field, and it just makes me reflect on. I was really glad when there was someone who looked like me came to see me, because I felt like, man, there's one barrier that possibly we won't have to try to address, or that gets in the way. And but I did come to a conclusion that people who are hurting, they're looking to see if you can help them.
Yeah.
And I just remember from the Friends program, like Dr. Rathbun would encourage some students of color to say, call Jolynn and just go talk to her. And the one message I share with them, and I think I've shared this with you, I tell them, you, the clinician, don't make race the issue in the room. You don't, because sometimes there's some fear, like, are they going to trust me or whatever, especially if they look different from you. And I've been used to people coming in and they thinking I'm taking them to Mrs. Bright versus that I am Mrs. Bright, and that I'm going to be sitting with you, but I'm not letting that get away. I want to get to your story. I want to hear what brought you here. And at the end of the time together, was I helpful? Do you want to come back or do you not, or whatever? Or we kind of forget, like, we're different in some kind of way that we can see visibly. But can you help me?
Yeah.
And that's what's going to keep me coming back. Yeah. And I try to tell the student, that's what's going to keep them coming back. If they're hurting enough, they want to know if you can help them. And if you can, they're going to sit with you. And guess what? We help other people experience us sometimes for the very first time when there's differences. Like, you may have some assumptions or whatever. Like, if I show up and I'm going to sit with you, I'm like, okay, this is new. And I kind of knew. But what do I walk away with? Is it rich, like melting butter, that when we're done together.
Yeah.
We're going to claim that. Okay, we're going to trademark that or something, melting butter. It's like melting butter.
That sounds delicious right now.
Okay. Maybe that was a big old explanation, but I think you took me in that spot, that just remembering. Yeah, because it can get in the way and it doesn't need to.
Yeah. Yeah, so once that relationship and alliance is formed and that everybody's looking for their suffering to be held.
You didn't say the S word.
Oh.
Suffering. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
I was like, did I say an S word?
So what do you think, just in your 5 years, okay, of being at Friends in the role that you're in, what do you see, or what have you seen Friends University or your setting, the Center on Family Living, doing to break a lot of the stigma? I mean, were there some intentional things, or do you just think just organically some things have happened? What do you think?
Well, I think one of the most important things is that the administration has supported overtly mental health and seeking help at the Center on Family Living.
So from the top.
From the top absolutely matters. So what that means is, if it's at the top, it will trickle down. So people are influenced by that. And then they start thinking of ways, well, how can I collaborate with the MFT program? How can I collaborate with the Center on Family Living to do something maybe unique? So at times there's been different kind of psychoeducation or support groups for athletics on campus.
Okay.
Which makes up a significant chunk at Friends University. So the athletic director has been incredibly supportive of that. So just having coaches talk about therapy and help seeking is incredible. We have faculty on campus that talk about help seeking and mental health. And if they notice that a student is in crisis, they'll say, hey, did you know we have a clinic here on campus? Can I walk you over? Can I help you
That's good.
initiate? So all of that together has really created more pathways to the clinic. And then that new initiative that I'm talking about, where we're in the dorms. So at its height, we could have this potential where we're providing some kind of group support, group mental health services, kind of lighter, but more educational to anybody that's living on campus at Friends University. That's huge. Like when I think about when I was a freshman at college, I don't think I understood what anxiety or depression looked like.
But you had some.
Yeah. And I don't think I understood coping mechanisms and how to address conflict. And so if I had somebody in my dorm helping me out with that, I mean, how cool is that? You talk about preventative and treatment. That's just, I mean, the more I think about it, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. You're saying my favorite word in this season is preventative. Like how can, if the lines are long at the door, people waiting, but how can we prevent some things? Be intentional about that. I think I have another bumper sticker for us.
Okay.
Because you said the word pathway and it just kind of ignited my spirit. But I said, if we would just begin to create a pathway to health and healing for people. So that may look different how we do that. But I love that you said that somebody just creating a pathway to the clinic, but just what about a pathway to health and healing?
Absolutely.
I love that. Don't you love it? You think we should do that?
Yes.
That sounded just
Got
like
the
melting butter. Yeah. The pathway. So some tips, some coping skills, some things like as people, maybe they're the student or maybe they're the parent who is saying goodbye, dropping their kid off at college or dropping their kid off for kindergarten. It doesn't matter. Like, what does that look like for educators? What's going on right now and what could be really helpful to help ensure maybe that they have a good year, a fruitful year, a productive year? Healthy year?
Yeah. Well, I'll first talk a little bit about, I think, students coming to college. So I think one of the things that happens when students first come to college is they're one of their first experiences where they're leaving home and living away from home. So their boundaries with their parents are really different. And then they're looking for inclusion. Like, so we all have this desire to be included and be a part of something.
Pick me
I
up.
know, yeah, to be connected. And I think that's hard sometimes to do when you come to a new campus or come back is, how do I feel included on this campus? How do I find my people? So I think that on top of academics and tests.
Oh, I'm supposed to be studying and taking tests. Like I'm not just supposed to be hanging out with my friends.
I know. Although that was by far my favorite part of college. So you have this academic anxiety, and then you have what could be experiences, potentially loneliness or depression, missing their family if they've moved away too far. And then there's always interesting family dynamics that go around that of maybe the family's not quite ready for them to leave. And so they deal with that in different ways. Or they're not, maybe the students, they're first generation students. So that's really tough on family systems because, the family system doesn't know how to navigate college. They don't. It's kind of a mystery. And then those first generation students are experiencing a lot of new territory. So it's difficult for kind of both sides.
Even though that's exciting, it can be an exciting thing and it's a blessed thing to be able to go to higher education or even just to be in school and doing well.
Yeah. Well, in our student population, again, we have this huge, age variance. And so with some of our students, adult students, what we notice is, they've been out of school, out of academics for a long time. And And so there's some anxiety and kind of nervousness around that. And then often what I watch is they sacrifice so much to come back to school, whether it's
I see what you're
quitting
saying.
a job, cutting back at a job, having less time with their family and their children, not having time to do all these other things in their life that they're used to. So they're stepping in, having sacrificed so much and given up so much to be a part of the program again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of anxiety around that. And then often what I watch is their own family system, their own families trying to deal with, oh gosh, mom's back at school or dad's back at school, or
Trying to reorganize even at home, like who's doing the laundry, who's cook, what do meals look like? How do we give mom study time or dad?
Yeah. So they're coming back to school as, a kind of a different, content-wise, different experience for them.
That's good. I just remember going through the program, and I thought we had some fun, and we would call it enmeshed. They called it us the enmeshed group. We were class 7.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so we kind of couldn't move without each other. But I would be wondering, okay, you're pregnant. I'm happy for you. Okay, but how are you going to be pregnant and do this? I'm single, and I don't even know when I'm doing my laundry, So what's going on over your house? Like how are you guys organizing life when this feels like it's so demanding and it's taking up a lot of space? But people do what they need to do to get through. And I always have to remember this and tell students, this is time limited. It's not going to be for the next 50 years. It's for 2 years of our life, and we're going to make a commitment to this.
It's not sustainable for after 2 years.
No, and that was, that's a lot. So that's good stuff. So as an educator, what are you personally doing to get ready for the new school year, for the calendar year? What's going to be happening?
Well, since I do administration, it's I feel like it's a lot of scheduling meetings.
Okay.
So in my little system, I'm the one that schedules meetings that people are like, oh gosh, that's a lot of meetings.
But hopefully necessary ones, and that things are getting done.
I think so, but I'm biased. So lots of organizing and planning out the year. And then I am teaching a class right off the bat. So this week and last week, I've been doing lots of course prep around that class.
Okay, good.
We have a new faculty member joining us this year that I'm very excited about. And so it's also trying to get her onboarded well. And my hope as a program director is that she will feel supported and just a part of our program, and that she can grow there and enjoy teaching and supervising. And so I'm always thinking of how structurally, how can I create that environment? And then emotionally, how can I create that environment for her?
Thanks for doing that. Because that's, I just heard someone yesterday talking about how HopeNet onboards our new staff and our students really well. And I didn't know that's what she was going to say. But the thing is, for her, she talked about creating a moment. You create a moment. So the things you're intentional about creating a moment for this new staff to remember and to say, these people are the real deal. Yeah. So sometimes I think we don't know how important those things are. Yeah. So that's cool. I love that. You know what? We have dabbled into all kind of crazy things. We talked about accessibility for minority mental health. We talked about your brave journey through adoption and in living in Missouri. That's what I remember. Okay.
That's funny on several levels.
Yeah. And so, but it's good. But here you're sitting here today, and you have thrived. You're thriving in. Yeah, there's a reason. I always think there's a reason why our stories are the way they are. So I think we've touched on some things and talked to some people a little bit about the school year starting again, and just anxiety and some low mood can it's normal. I think we should normalize some of that. Some of it's expected, but the thing is that there is help, and the thing is reaching out, making sure you're touching base with someone, doing something about that. Does that make sense? If you're feeling that, and there are resources available, not just on a campus, but in our community. There are things that are available. So I want you to finish this up, and I want you to offer whatever comes out of your mouth, whatever melted butter comes out. But we always ask our guests, offer some words of hope as we sit, getting ready for people maybe to get ready to experience some new. Maybe some people are saying goodbye to some folks, or people are thinking about right now because of what we said to getting help. I'm just going to leave with you, Dr. Rebecca. Putting you on the spot.
I would say, I'll say it simply and then I'll explain.
Okay, I love that.
Nothing stays the same. And so what I mean by that is because I've been in these places myself where I feel down or anxious or overwhelmed or hopeless about the future, that if you're in a relationship that it feels hopeless, or in a conflict that feels hopeless, or it's scary or toxic, or you're kind of going through a bout of depression and feeling low and not energized about life, or anxious and feeling overwhelmed and kind of like not sure of how to move forward, or in a place in life that just isn't enjoyable or lonely, I could keep going and going. That's not stagnant. It doesn't stay the same. Things are always changing. There's always resources out there. And there's always ideas that can shape and change how we live our life. So I do know that, like, feeling those things and being in a stage of life that just is not very enjoyable, you can feel really stuck. And I promise you, a year from now, 5 years from now, it'll look different.
Promise, guarantee, almost guarantee it.
Yes, yeah. So things don't always stay the same. It can feel like that, but they don't have to.
I was just thinking about the one thing that doesn't stay the same is we'll be a year older.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We'll be a year older. Like 5 years from now, I'll be 5 years older. And what does that look like? What does that life look like? So it doesn't stay the same.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a different person than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, definitely 20 years ago.
Amen to that. Yeah. Yeah. And you, even though there was a time when you were like, I don't know what I'm going to think, I want to do this, I want to do that, but you have landed. And even that doesn't stay the same. It may stay here in this spot, okay, but it changes even in that.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Nothing
Thank you
stays
for
the
having
same.
me.
I know, it's been too much fun. I want to just talk all day.
I know.
We can't do it. We cannot do it. And so I'm just going to sign out by, first of all, thanking Dr. Rebecca for being here. And how can they get a hold of you if somebody's even thinking about, even it's the number to the Center on Family Living, how do they get a hold of you to say, you know what, I want to try that, or I want to ask her further about what did they do in the dorms, or,
Yeah. Well, I'd be happy to share my email address. I think that's the easiest way.
Great. Okay.
And is there a way, like, through the
we'll put that
podcast website to put it up there? Okay.
And we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd read it off, but when I started at Friends, they gave me the longest email address possible.
Oh, you know what? Because you gave that to me, and I was like, isn't that what I said?
Yeah.
Like, hello.
I know. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. What about that email? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do that. And so, know that this has been Rich, and thank you for saying yes to sit with us today and just to kind of offer your wisdom and your expertise. We really love that. So for our listeners, thank you for hanging out with us. And until next time, we want to thank again our sponsors and Hoydell for hanging in there with us too. And as I always end this, I just want to say this to you. Bless you.
Thanks for listening to Studio 2501, conversations about mental health and wellness. Studio 2501 is hosted by Lynn Bright. Lynn is HopeNet's Director of Community Impact, a published author, and has been a licensed clinical therapist for over 20 years. This podcast is owned and operated by HopeNet in Wichita, Kansas. HopeNet is a faith-based nonprofit providing a wide range of mental health and wellness services, including counseling, life coaching, and trainings. For more information on HopeNet and to learn how you can help expand our mission, visit hopenetwichita.org and follow us on social media at HopeNet Wichita. Thank you.